You are now tuned in to the Worldwide Underground, the podcast where we talk about the art and politics of storytelling in all its forms. My name is Gabriel Teodros, your host for this ride. I'm a musician, a writer based here in Seattle, Washington. I used to have a show over on a.k.a. And this podcast is an evolution of the work that I was trying to do over on the radio station. By the way, I just wanted to let you know I released some music this last weekend. A new project called Embers. It's a remix album. It's out right now on all platforms, wherever you listen to music. And this track that you're hearing in the background is one of the songs I produced for it. It's called New Suns. If you like it, go check out the whole album, you know? Also want to take a moment to thank everyone who's been subscribed here on gabrielteodros.substack.com. This is a completely independent experiment in long-form storytelling, and it would not be possible without everyone who subscribes over on the Substack. I don't do any kind of advertising or anything. It's just real listener-powered podcasting, if you will. This is our 15th episode, and since the beginning, we've had a lot of incredible guests on here. The very first episode was a collage of voices who all spoke up in solidarity with Palestine. Everyone from Ladybug Mecca of Diggable Planets to Tef Poe to Jackie Vinson. We're all on that episode, and since then, we've had a lot of great episodes with people like Saul Williams and DJ Fatrick. McCleet was on just last week. The writer Maza Mengist, Kim Mortal was on here. Ijoma Oluo, Nikita Oliver, so many more. Go check out the Substack to tap into any of the podcast episodes you may have missed. Today is really special to me. I've got one of my favorite artists anywhere in the world on the podcast today. Her name is Maimouna Youssef, better known as Mumu Fresh. And she's got a brand new album out. Just came out this last month. It's called The Healing. And it's been years in the works, as you'll hear in this conversation. And it really is what it says it is. It's healing music. In this episode, we spoke about Mumu Fresh's journey in music, how she started with her family, everything that went into this album, the story behind some of her more well-known collaborations, like stuff with The Roots and Dead Prez, and so much more, including a new project that she's got going on with her mother that's actually an artist's retreat residency. Just listen to the whole episode. You hear what I'm talking about. Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to share some of the album with you. This is the title track, produced by Hannah V, right here in the Worldwide Underground with Mumu Fresh. Appreciate y'all for being here. Let's get into it. Hey, this is the Worldwide Underground. My name is Gabriel Teodros, and I am joined today by one of my favorite artists. She goes by Mumu Fresh, otherwise known as Maimouna Youssef.
Hey.
Tapping in from DC. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on the new album.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have it done. I tell you, people don't know all the different things that it takes to put out an album independently. My God.
Yeah.
It's a celebration when if you actually get it done. It's a celebration.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, beautiful body of work.
Thank you.
Yeah. We talk more about the LP, if it's all right with you, I wanted to go back
Mhm.
into your journey. I don't know if you know this, but the first time I ever saw you perform, we actually shared a stage together.
Okay, where was that?
It was in 2008, and you were
Mm.
performing with your family and it was the longest walk in DC.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, but yes, that sounds about right. Yep, three
Yeah.
generations. Yeah, my mom and Devasha Dale, who's taking my grandmother's part after she transitioned. Wow. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that, like, because that was a phenomenal thing, seeing y'all all perform together on
Mhm.
stage. Like, was that how you got started in music? Did it start in family for you, or
Yeah.
how did your journey in music start?
Yeah, for sure. So Three Generations was a group that my grandmother started with
Wow.
my mother singing, me singing, my sister dancing. My brothers refused to participate. so,
Okay.
but we would travel to different colleges and retreats and different functions to sing indigenous music and tell about the history of our people and the fact that we're still here, that we're not relics, and
Right.
we're woven into the very fiber of everything that they know is normal. So yeah, that was like my earliest experience, and even I'll say, I was in a my mom's and my aunt started a theater group called Wombwork Productions,
Mm.
and even before then, let me go back before then. Around like 4 or 5, we had a group called the Children of Liberation, and it was
Wow,
my
you were born into it.
right, it was my cousins and us. My mom had convinced everybody to take their kids out of school and homeschool. So we basically had like a homeschool co-op in Baltimore. And this is
Mm,
really before a lot of the laws around homeschooling were in place. So they just basically thought we were hooking schools. So, we had to duck the
mhm,
truancy cops if we wanted to play outside. But my mom, because my mother was creating this curriculum, like it wasn't approved by the school board or anything like that. She was just putting like
mhm.
philosophers who she trusted, historians, mathematicians, scientists, quantum physicists. She's like putting all this curriculum together for us. Of course, the school system is like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
We are not acknowledging any of that. Um,
Mhm.
but it really had us thinking like just miles ahead. So we had this group called the Children of Liberations, and we would drum and dance and do poetry and then we started. My mom and I started the theater company Wombwork Productions, and we did a lot of street theater. And we would
Okay.
address issues of things that were going on in Baltimore, like drugs was a big deal. So we would do performances around breaking addiction, around rebuilding family relationships that have been destroyed by addiction. We did plays about violence, street violence, domestic violence, like all different types of things, historical
Wow.
American violence. And we would perform out on the corners, and eventually we got into a theater, and so I did that all growing up. I became the musical director for. I would start to script and write out for these plays. Um, yeah, so all that just kind of funneled into, all right, now it's time to do an album, it's time to branch out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so wild
Hmm.
that you started so young. Um, so the second time I saw you perform, I'm just going back,
Okay.
was in 2014, and I still hadn't well, I didn't know that I had heard your music recorded yet. You were performing at a DC Loves Dilla
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
Bahamadia, Pharoah Monch, and Fife.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was the last time I ever seen Fife Dog in person too.
Mhm.
That was a really special night. Um, and then after that, it was like the NPR Tiny Desk and the Vintage Babies album. And then I started getting into your recorded work. But it wasn't until years later that I realized that you were on other records that were already in my rotation. And I just didn't know you were
Mhm.
there, from
Yeah.
like the Roots Game Theory
Mm-hmm.
to I wrote some of them down, like Commons B album,
Mm-hmm.
you were back in Dead Prez at Chappelle's Block Party,
Yeah.
Odyssey's Good Fight. So I was wondering, like, about that part of your journey, like when you started collaborating with these big names. Like, how did some of those collaborations come together, and were you putting out your own music at that same time, or did your own work kind of come after the
No,
collabs?
so I started doing my own work when I was about 18,
Okay.
right after I graduated. I won this competition in Baltimore. It's called Baltimore Idol. It was the beginning of American Idol, and they were scouting all over the country for local idols to all compete in LA. And so I ended up winning the Baltimore Idol. They sent me out to LA. I went out there. I did a couple of rounds. Long story short, they told me I was too ethnic. They said if they ever hold an ethnic idol, they'll be sure to call me because I do not fit
Wow.
the script for American Idol. I said,
Uh,
wow, that's so amazing because like I'm actually an original American, but okay.
right.
uh, but yeah, so but because of that competition, I won money and I won like all this access for the radio station and so I was already in the studio with my band. I had a band from Dunbar Jazz Band Ensemble. We had a really
Mm,
phenomenal jazz teacher who played with Count Basie and Duke Ellington and
mm.
Mingus and all these folks. And he really, trained us really, really well. So some of the guys from that band and my cousin, we had a group called Serious B. Again, I told
Uh,
you my mom taught us, right? So we were
yeah.
Blacks in Science was one of our science books. So we learned about the Dogon people and the Sirius B constellation, the
Mm-hmm.
Sirius constellation. So our group was named after that. So
So,
we already were getting in the studio recording music. And me winning the Baltimore Idol really kind of helped push our thing forward. It had us on the radio, had us on TV, and we
mm,
did our first like album release concert. So I used that album to shop to some of the soul aquarians because that's who I felt like we were
okay.
probably closely aligned with. Like, man, it'd be dope to work with people who work with our heroes. And
Mm-hmm.
so we ended up getting a deal and we moved to Philly. The same studio that we were recording in is where the Roots were recording. So when I was,
Okay.
I would do whatever my sessions were. We were trying to write an album and just trying to find our sound. Well, I don't even want to say, I feel like we had a sound, but we had to come up with a sound that Sony would agree with, that would allow us to do.
Uh-huh.
And we were very
Uh-huh.
radical for the time and to be these young kids. And yeah, they really couldn't figure out what to do with all of that wild, radical young energy. But so after my sessions, I would go over to the Roots room and just say like, "Hey, do y'all need anything? Like, I'm a writer. I can sing some
Mm,
hooks if you need something." And so Dice Raw, I met Dice Raw, and he would be over there, and he'd be like, "Yeah, why don't you sing this and sing that?" So I would just like, I'm just like showing up, just being available, and I'll cut a bunch of hooks for them, and they end up using two of them, and one of them was "Don't Feel Right," which got nominated for a Grammy. So it just really
yeah.
came from just showing up, being available. I was trying to figure out how to make more impact because up until then I had just been in the studio for like a year and a half just writing and recording, and I didn't really feel like I was making any traction, and the label didn't want us to sell our music anymore. So I'm sitting on a
Mm.
box of CDs I just bought from disc makers and I can't do anything with it.
Oof. Ooh,
And I'm
ooh,
like,
that
it
hurts.
doesn't it right? And I'm
Yeah.
working at a retail job, so I'm like, this ain't working out. It
Yeah.
wasn't moving the way I wanted to, and I just think I hadn't had enough life experience to like to be whoever they wanted me to be, and they weren't really sure what to do with who I am. Like, what do we do with someone like her? Or my
Mm,
partner or our group. It was just like they just didn't know how to sell us. So I'm like, I'm not a person just gonna sit on my ass and just do nothing or complain or let someone else define my destiny. So I was like, let me just figure out how to make my own moves. So I just started like showing up like, hey, y'all need some work, you need some singers, you need some what you need, and I
yeah.
did that record, and that kind of parlayed me doing the block party.
Nice.
So
Did that's wild. So I didn't know any of that history. Did how old were you when you got that deal, and did the music that you were working on for that record label ever come out?
no, never came out. I was about 18 years old.
Oh, you were so young.
hmm
Wow.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah, that music never came out. Um, Lord, I don't even know where it is or I don't even remember what it sounds like at this point. But
Yeah.
yeah, we just we recorded it for like a year and a half. And when
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity, where you could either renew the contract or get out of it, I was like, I want out because I didn't really feel
Yeah.
like I wasn't really happy there, and I didn't feel like creatively, um, I was able to do what I wanted to do. I really wanted to explore myself and explore my sound. And I just felt like there was a lot of rigidity around what I could do. You're a black girl from Baltimore, you can only sound like this. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't really feeling that. And, being a young person, everybody thinks you're arrogant if you say no, if you say, hey, I have my own idea. It's like,
Right.
you can't have an idea. You're just a child. What do you know about? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I want to explore myself. I want to have the opportunity to just know what I sound like without you telling me what I sound like. And
That's right.
I had grown up with so many different sounds in my home, like, I mean, my soundscape at home was like Fela Kuti and Leta Mbulu and Miriam Makeba and Ulali and Bob
Mm.
Marley and, Eddie Jefferson and Sarah Vaughan and, so
Mm.
and Celia Cruz, like I just had this wealth of
Yeah.
sound, and I just felt like there was really no space for a black girl. Is like, you're a black girl, you don't get to have any of these experiences, and that's only been my experience. Like, I've had a
Right.
worldwide experience my whole life. Like, I was born in Baltimore, but my family, I traveled. Like, you know what I mean? So my mind was already
Mm-hmm.
expanded, and I really couldn't just squeeze it down into this one thing that they thought I was,
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't let them box you in. You know what I mean? Because like the music that you make with all those influences,
Hmm.
it's yeah, it's so beautiful and
Thank
powerful,
you.
you know? Yeah. The new record, I love this new album so
Thank
much.
you.
And it's my favorite of your albums, you know,
Woohoo!
and I've been listening for a minute. I wanted to ask you, I noticed you released the singles over a long course of time. You know, I wanted to know, like, was that an intentional move? Because everything on the album sounds intentional. Like,
Hmm.
it all sounds like it works together perfectly.
Yeah, so I definitely
But
put the album together like as a flow, as a storyline, and how I felt like emotionally was an ebb and flow, um, from Good Morning down to Grateful. Like Grateful
yeah,
almost didn't make it on a record, but I was like, you can't have an album about healing without a song about gratitude. There is no healing
true.
without gratitude. That is the root of healing. Being able
Mm,
to be grateful for everything, even the stuff you don't like, and that's how
yeah,
you attract a more healing vibration. You become resonant. Your frequency resonates with the same frequency of healing. That's the only way you can attract that to yourself. Um, but I can't say that I meant to to
yeah,
release it over an extended period of time. It's like stuff just was happening. It was so much
yeah.
stuff happening that some of it I just couldn't control. And
Hmm.
but as God would have it, it worked out where it was like, okay, I'm finally able to release this record. And so I kind of just looked at the singles that I had released and some other songs that I had, just recorded, and some I already had on my hard drive. Like,
Hmm.
which of these songs tells the story that I want to tell about my own healing journey? I'll say probably like the beginning of 2018 is when I really got deep in my own healing journey, meaning like I started to
Mm,
not perfect, I don't want to say there's no such thing, but get into my morning routine, spending time in
okay.
prayer, like long hours daily in prayer, getting into my meditation routine, getting into my journaling, affirmations, walking every day, talking to God, writing on my walls, like really getting in, spending time inside of myself, and pulling away from the world as much, not being available
Mm,
so that I could be available.
yeah.
and and so the concepts for a lot of those songs started happening because I had to kind of take life into my own hands. I had kind of fallen into this like letting things happen, and I wasn't happy with that. And
Hmm.
I know better, but it wasn't in the forefront of my consciousness that I knew better. And I had to pull that knowing into the front of my consciousness to really see myself reflected and be like, Moo, this ain't you. You are a master of your
Mm,
destiny. You don't just let these people do whatever they want to you,
mm,
So I just started sitting with myself and saying, what in my subconscious mind, what narrative in my subconscious mind is allowing these things to happen? Because things just don't, for the most part, don't just happen to you without some type of spiritual agreement, even if you don't know you've made that agreement, right? It might be something
mm,
as simple as not setting boundaries with people, right? Or sometimes
mm,
people treat
hmm.
you the way you treat yourself, or allow yourself to be treated. Or sometimes it's like, if you just don't define where you going, somebody else with the more dominant energy will define where you going, and you
Mm,
find yourself in the passenger seat when you're supposed to be in the driver's seat. And or you support somebody else's mission and you find yourself just on a ride. And so I
Yeah.
just got to
Yeah.
this point where I was like, bro, if you don't like where you're going, you're the driver. Go somewhere different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote down all the reasons why I couldn't, and then I corrected it. Nope, actually you can, because this and this, and you actually don't have to do that. And nope, that's not really true. So I just spent a
Yeah.
lot of time with myself, just debunking all the lies I was telling myself about why something couldn't work, or why I have to do this, or why I can't do that. And it
Yeah.
just started, everything in my life started shifting like big time, to the point I was like, bro, why you ain't do this like 10 years ago? Like, you know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because there are certain roadblocks that are set up for Black people, for women, for people of color.
For sure.
There are roadblocks. They have masterminded this thing, and they make a lot of money off of us being stuck. So I ain't gonna say that does exist, but I have to believe, if I'm a divine being, that
Yeah.
there's still a way. I gotta find a way, and I gotta
Yeah.
discipline my mind, to not let no doubt in, no fear in. Like, I gotta really, really do the work and discipline my mind seriously. But I
Yeah.
have to believe that there is a way over their hurdles. And it is a way to
Hmm.
succeed and still be myself. There's a way to succeed and still take care of my family, still be righteous, still be godly, on a godly mission and purpose. Like, there has to be a way. I gotta succeed without twerking, because I don't want to twerk.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so yeah, I had to
Yeah.
really figure it out. Like, I had to have this like ridiculous relentless drive. Like, I'm going to have everything I need, my son gonna have everything he need, my mother gonna have everything she need, and I'm still
Hmm.
walking in purpose, and on my divine mission. And that just take a lot of commitment. That is a
Yeah.
different kind of walking journey, when you are not going to bend, and you're not going to go with the status quo. You're
Hmm.
not going to do what they're asking you to do, but you still
Yeah.
expect to have all this. But you gotta walk different. But it's possible. And so I just started seeing things open up. Like, whoa, I couldn't even have thought that through. And I knew that it was like, okay. So I just was I just started writing songs about it. What you gotta let
Mm.
go to get what you really want. You gotta let go of this
Hmm.
judgment. You gotta let go of this fear. You gotta let go of this unforgiveness. You gotta
Hmm.
let, like, that is a
Hmm.
vibration that is attracting a vibration that you don't want. So yes, they
Yeah.
did that, and that was really foul what they did. But you gotta bless them and send them on their way, and keep your heart light. Don't give them your heart. Don't let them have your
That's
heart.
right.
So these are all
That's right.
concepts that I cover in this album.
Hmm.
And my friend told me, he said, I can see the teacher in you, Moo. You always teaching. And I said, bro, I be talking to myself. This is how I talk to
That's
myself.
it.
Every song on this record, this is me talking to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's
Like,
it.
don't give them that. They don't get that. They don't get your heart. They
Yeah.
don't get your kindness, your spirit. You don't let them take that from you. Then they won. That's what they wanted.
Hmm.
You don't give it. You
Hmm.
don't give it. You don't let you fight for your kindness, for your joy. You fight for that.
Yeah.
That's, you protect that. That's mine. You can't take it. So that's what this
Yeah.
record is really about. You know.
I love it. I love it. As you're describing that journey, I've been in therapy, for the last, oh my God, has it been a year yet?
Mhm.
No. Yeah, I think maybe about a year. And one of the things that my therapist and me talk about are stuck points,
Mm,
which are as you said, they're the stories that we tell ourselves,
yeah.
and that's the first thing, is like identifying the untruths that we have inside of our own
Mhm.
head that has us stuck, and we have
Yeah.
to tell new stories, to free ourselves from those things. So it sounds like
Yeah.
you found your way to that same
And,
thing
and
through
I'm
this music
finding,
thing.
because it's all, oh my God, the layers are so many more. Once you work through a couple barriers, and it's like, oop,
Oh
another one
yeah.
here. you
Oh
wanted,
yeah.
oh, you wanted a challenge? Here's another one. Another one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I can't say that no more, but go ahead.
That's real. Oh man, I wanted to ask about a few of the collaborators on this album.
Hmm.
Because you got the title song, "A Healing," produced by a sister that I learned about through that
Oh,
collaboration, Hannah
wonderful.
V,
Hmm.
and she's dope.
Yeah, she.
I wanted to ask you about how that collaboration came
Mhm.
together.
So,
Yeah.
so I met Hannah in London. I was there for like a
Okay.
month. I was deciding if I wanted to live in London. And so I was
Uh
there for
huh.
a month doing shows and just, checking out the music scene. And so a friend of mine, Ohaji, he introduced me to Hannah. I went to her studio. We clicked right away, and we recorded like 3 songs. And
Dope.
then like some years later, she came to LA. I was in LA at the time, and then we recorded this song. This song ended up being in a movie that like the title track for a movie that um Megan Good did. Um
Okay. I didn't know that.
yeah, it was a really, really powerful story. And so anyway, I knew I had already had the title of a healing, because I
Yeah.
started this in 20. I started writing in 2018, started recording in 2019. So I knew it was eventually going to make it on this project when we figured out what the songs were going to be and all of that. Um, and Jazzy Jeff, he had reached out to me about doing an album. So I was like, well, maybe this concept can be one project. And he didn't
He was
mind.
the he was the other collaborator I was going to ask you about.
Okay.
was how the Jazzy Jeff connection happened, because I noticed you recorded a lot of it at his studio. Yeah.
Yeah, so me and Jeff have been friends. I met Jeff in Philly probably hmm maybe 2005.
Wow.
We recorded, yeah, I want to say that because it was right before my son was born. My son was born in
Mm,
'06. We
okay.
recorded a song called "I Got a Man" for it was initially for Jennifer Hudson, but she said, "Girl, you sang that song down. You better keep it." I said, "No, please, you keep it. Please buy it."
Right.
But anyway, so I ended up keeping it, and me and Jeff released it in 2011. So that was like our first kind of collaboration together. But Jeff has always been like a mentor of mine, a major supporter,
Mm,
and I love Jeff, love his whole family, his wife and kids, everything. And I've been a part of his playlist collective. He used to, before COVID, he used to do these annual playlist retreats where,
yeah.
a lot of his favorite artists and music creators, DJs would come and stay at his house for like 4 days and create music and go to workshops and, learn new instruments and tech. And, it was really, really, really phenomenal. I've never seen anything before or since like it. Um,
That sounds like a dream. That sounds
no,
so dope.
really. Everybody loves it. His house is like Disneyland. Everyone loves it there. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, so he had this idea like, I want to do these playlist sessions with you. And so he just brought a lot of producers there. We had a lot of jam sessions. So some of the songs like came from jam sessions, like Chasing Rainbows came from a jam session at Jeff's house. Let Go,
Okay.
Let Go did Avalanche. Jeff and
Uh-huh.
Kaidi produced Avalanche. Dance Daughter, we recorded there. Daniel
Beautiful
Crawford,
song.
he produced that one and played keys on that. Yeah, so it was a lot of joints that we started there. And then once the pandemic hit, I was living in Philly, and then I started recording at one of my co-writers, Carvin Hagens, who, him and Jeff, they were part of he's a part of Touch of Jazz back in the day,
Okay.
before
Okay.
my time. Um,
Uh-huh.
but they worked on like, all the Music Soul Child stuff together and Jill Scott's
Mm,
first album. And um, so he had a studio close to where I live. So during the pandemic, I would go to his studio and to continue recording this album. Because
mhm.
Jeff he was like one of the first people I knew to have COVID, and it hit him bad.
I remember,
Yeah.
I forgot until you said that,
Hmm.
but it was because of Jeff that when I got COVID, I remember Jazzy Jeff said, if you get COVID, lay on your stomach. Like literally, like
Mm.
I took his advice to heart when I finally caught COVID. So
Yeah.
that's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff is why I started really, because nobody really took it seriously. And when Jeff got it, I was like, oh my God, this is serious.
Oh yeah.
So I was,
Yeah.
definitely followed the rules. I was staying in my house. That's why I started buying recording equipment. I went back to engineering school because I actually
Hmm.
recorded some of the stuff on there too, because I had to learn how to record
Nice.
at home. And then when Carbon Studio opened up, I started going to Carbon Studio, and Vidal lived in Philly. So Vidal did all the mixing and the mastering. So it was, it was a process. We really struggled through getting all this stuff together.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, I was also going out to LA. No, let me see. This must have been right before COVID. Right before COVID. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This was like all December, January. So COVID hit around March of 2019, going into 2020. I recorded this whole
Mhm.
project with Dummy. So I had all these multiple projects going on. Um, so yeah, so that's just why you see it kind of like stretched out over time.
I was trying to remember too, when did Queen of Culture drop? Because it's
2021.
Okay, so you
Hmm.
was working on this before Queen of Culture even came
I
out.
was, yeah, but then I kind of stopped
Yeah,
working on this and went to Queen of Culture and then came back to it because one thing that's hard about collaborating with a lot of people is things do move slower. It's a
that's
lot
right.
harder. So with Queen of Culture, it's just me and Dummy. I go to his house.
Got
He
you.
got a studio there. We knock it out. But when you have
Yeah,
so many collaborators, it's just a lot of moving parts to organize and
yeah,
get people schedules and get and so it just took longer.
yeah. So now some projects are like that.
Hmm.
I've put out a lot of music myself, and yeah, there's. I remember one time there was like one time period where I got such a backlog. Like I had 5 albums that I was working on all at once,
Right.
and the way they came out was like way out of order, but they kind of all reference each other. So
Mhm.
I think it's really confusing for listeners to look back at that time of my career and try to piece it all together,
That's amazing
like
though. 5 albums.
chronologically.
That's amazing.
Listen, I was on one in my early 30s.
I
Oh,
love it.
um, yeah. I think one of my favorite songs on this album is "State of Emergency,"
Thank
and
you.
you've got a great line in there that says, "We can't wait on the government," and it's one thing that I've appreciated about all your work,
Mm.
going from like Miracle with Superman, where you're talking about the water protectors and
Mhm.
shining a light on people protesting pipelines, to songs like "Tear It Down" with Salam Remy, where
I
you
love that
chanting down
song.
these, you're
People get
chanting
so
down these
scared when I
colonizer
do that.
statues.
When I perform that
Ooh,
song, people be in the audience like this. They be so shook when I do that song.
that's that's hilarious. You're someone who I think of as unafraid of challenging systems of power. I wanted to ask why is that important for you to speak on these issues?
Well, it's really kind of how I was raised, and I think
Hmm.
it's always a challenge because it's so many things to speak about, and it is something I pray about God, what do you want me to speak on? When do I speak? When will what's the best way to address something? Sometimes it's most helpful to speak and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's helpful just to do. Like we're creating
Mm-hmm.
a space in a retreat center space for cultural reclamation, for spiritual reclamation. Sometimes you got to go in and do your spiritual work. So just
Yeah.
knowing when you're supposed to manifest in the physical and when your protest has to be in the spirit, when it has to be, underground, like, but I came from one of those kinds of families. My mother, if you think I'm fearless, I'm nowhere near as fearless as my mother. I'm not. I
I
have to I
love
have to
that.
call my mother to, like, when I'm afraid to do something, and she the OG, no fear.
Yeah.
She ready to go out in a blaze of glory at any moment. Okay.
I love
My
that.
father was so upset with my mother one time because she was with Khalid Muhammad and they were on tour and she was singing this song called Low Down Dirty Clinton. Oh my God. And my father was so upset that she would put herself, in harm's way like that. And
Uh-huh.
my mother could care less. She was going to say everything she thought. And this is,
Yeah.
during Clinton's presidency.
Uh-huh.
And that's just who she is. Like, my mom is named after Hopi Kachina, Nataaska. And
Mm.
my grandmother dreamed of the name. She was not even familiar with the Kachina, with the Hopi system, but she dreamed to name this daughter Nataaska, and it'll be good. It'll be a good name
Ooh.
for her. And Nataaska is like like protects, it scares children to make sure they don't do the wrong thing. It protects the village, it protects women, it wards off demons, but it's like a very kind of grotesque looking Kachina, right? But it,
Yeah.
it keeps everybody afraid. Everybody acts right when that Kachina's around. And I swear that is like how my mom is. Nobody plays with my mother, okay?
Uh-huh.
She keeps
Uh-huh.
everyone in her place. When I was a kid, my mom would, like, she would protect women who were in domestic abusive relationships. Like, I remember this guy coming to our house, and my mother was harboring this woman who was hiding from this man she was with. And she said, "Hey, listen, she's under my protection now, so you better go on about your way." He
Uh,
said, "Well, I want her back." She said, "You can't have her back. She now belongs
right.
to us." My mother considers our home like her country, and we are her
Mm-hmm.
citizens. And so she'll say, like,
Mm-hmm.
she's now a member of my country. And she means it. She means it. And you better not play. Don't, because she'll send her soldiers. She will send her soldiers.
Yeah.
And that man, he walked on up out of there. He got up out of there, gone now.
Yeah.
And that's just how she moved. My mother, she does. She protects women and children. At any point in time growing up, there'll be like so many kids at our house who's like parents couldn't take care of them, who had run away, who were just, you know, hiding from the law. Like it'll be all these kids just sleep on the floor, teenagers, you know. My brother too. When the police came looking for my brother because he's, you know, selling bike parts from the county into the city, you know, she
Uh-huh.
sent him to Ethiopia. When the police came looking, the next day he was
Wow.
in Ethiopia, you know. And she
Wow.
just moved like that. And you know, I'd be like, Ma, you don't have no fear. She'd be like, this is my country. You know,
Yo.
she's just like this. She's like, I don't fear them. They're my land. This is my country. They don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like she don't
Yeah.
just say that. She means it. And you know, she got warriors that walk with her that to enforce all that she says. You know, so
Yeah.
I come from them. You know, and my father too. My father don't go as hard as my mom do on the political side, but he's definitely a gangster in his own right, a
Uh-huh.
historian. I mean, knows you can't ask my dad about any time period of history or any war, any revolution. He will tell you all about it. He knows all the details. You know, study. You know, he'll say I'm a Malcolmite. That's what I am. I'm a Malcolmite. You know, because of his
Love it.
studying Malcolm X and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but my dad like to lay low. You know, my mom gonna be the first one running to the fire. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. He's like, wait. Hold on, let's
Yeah.
strategize. But
Yeah.
those are people I come from. So it's like I kind of and I think too, having a heart of an activist to me is really about like when people say, "Oh, so how'd you get into activism?" or "Oh, you're an activist." I mean, that's the word that we use to describe it. For me, activism really just has to do with empathy. Like when you have a heart and you just can't turn away from something, you got to say something, you got to do something, you got to figure out how you
Mm-hmm.
can make something better. It's really it's rooted in love. It's just my heart is overflowing with love, and I got to figure out how to help this thing, how to make something better. And sometimes, you know, sometimes the best thing we can do is pray. And we always look at that like the least we can do, but it's really the most we can do. You know, is
Mm-hmm.
to harness collective consciousness and elevate collective consciousness. You know, because if the
Mm-hmm.
planet elevates its vibration, certain things just can't happen on the planet anymore. But it's hard
Mm-hmm.
for us to get there, to think that way, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but that's, I mean, I have to give that credit to my parents. They brought me into the world like this, and they have an expectation, you know what I mean? They hold me to a
Yeah.
certain standard, like, you know, of integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does since your mother is a musician as well,
Hmm.
what does she think about the music that you're doing now?
Yeah, so you know, it's funny. Sometimes my mom will like listen to stuff and she's like, "Well, I like this. I don't like this. No, take this off the album. I don't like this. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
do it like this. Change this." And I'm like, "Mom, stop. Leave me alone. This is my album."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. And then she'll listen to it for a while, like, "Okay, I love it all. Okay, never mind." I'm like, "Oh my god, mom."
That's so funny.
So
I love that.
yeah, she has different ones that she loves. My favorite album of hers is The Blooming. She loves like
Uh-huh.
the live music element. That's the only album that I
Uh-huh.
did like completely live, you know.
I
Um
didn't realize the whole blooming was live.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, it was a monster to try and mix. But
Whew.
yeah, I did the whole album live. And also when I produce songs, you know that I produced them because the time signature will change in the middle of it. You
Ah,
know, the
uh-huh.
genre will change, right? So a song like in my first album, I have a song called Gypsy Woman. That's a song I
Mm-hmm.
produced. Black Magic Woman, I produced that song on the first Vintage Babies album. I Got a Feeling, I
Mm-hmm.
produced that song. Um
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so the way my mind works when I produce, it goes on this linear journey into outer space all the time.
Yeah.
You'll hear If you hear me on a staying consistent in a 4 bar loop or 8 bar loop, it's because somebody else did it.
I
It will not
see.
be me because if the way my mind works is like, in this A section, B, it's more like I guess a jazz musician. A section, B section, turn around, you know, C section. That's
Yeah.
how I
That makes
that's how
sense.
I think. Like, so I feel like the next record I'll do, I do want to go back to more to the live element. Um, Even when you hear songs that I produced on songs that I produced like a cappella, you know,
Uh-huh.
those
Uh-huh.
songs as well. Those songs as well will take take you on a different, like Panoramic on this new album, right? That's
Yeah.
one of my acapella songs.
You produced that
Yeah, it's
one,
like
right?
it's
Yeah.
all beatbox, all vocal, So that's
Yeah.
where my mind takes it to those places. So that's how you know, like, oh, Maimouna produced that because it's no
Yeah.
cycle. This la 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 la. She's going off into space.
I love it. Do you think you'll do an album that's completely your production?
I am working on an all acapella album. So that'd be my production. But in terms of like live band production, yeah, maybe. It just,
Yeah.
requires more of I gotta think about that, like how I would do it and
Yeah. It makes sense. I was just curious
Mhm.
because you just perked my interest when I was like, wait a minute, like you're where would you go on a whole record? Yeah.
All
Um
right, it'll be way out in space. Let me tell you. Because a
yo.
lot of I did an album called Subversive Activity when I was 18.
Uh,
You can only get it on Bandcamp.
okay.
It's not
Okay.
available like on Spotify or Apple Music or anything.
I appreciate that you have recordings from when you were 18 on Bandcamp because my
Hmm.
early stuff I am embarrassed by.
Okay.
So the fact the fact that you got your stuff out there is that's big.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I don't often listen to it, but when I do listen back to it, I'm like, this stuff was actually really good. I mean, you can definitely hear the jazz band influence, that we were in
Yeah,
this jazz
yeah.
band together. But there's a song called Schizophrenia that I wrote.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you'll hear it, it goes, I mean, I think it's a really dope song, but you like that's an idea of like, my production. When Music Breathes, that's a co-production with me and James. What is James' last name? I can't think of it right now. Joel. His first name is not even James. It's Joel. It was a long time ago, but
Yeah, you're 18.
yeah. So uh, I would even be interested. Yeah, I got to think about that. Because it's been so long since I've did something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think before I'm done, before I retire, I
Mm-hmm.
probably I still have a dream album in mind. Like a
Nice.
lot of times I have a lot of time restraints, financial restraints, and I have to be very precise and move in a very methodical and almost what do you call that? Mm, assembly line way.
Uh-huh.
Knock out the
Uh-huh.
vocal. Next vocal, knock out the vocal. Okay, next one. Okay, move. Okay, move on. Yeah, mix. That's good. Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
Because we're on a budget. We're on a tight budget trying to figure out
Right.
how to do all this stuff with
Right.
time and money. But I would love to one day uh, have the ability to just create not under those very restrictive circumstances
Mm-hmm.
and just
Mm-hmm.
really see how I could create in comfort with
Yes.
all of the everything I need there. So that would
Yes.
be interesting. I look forward to that.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen.
Ashay.
You know. I saw a clip recently of you and Rami Mali.
Mhm.
Uh, y'all did a song about Gaza.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about that song. Where can we hear it?
I just talked to him the other day. So we kind of rushed through the production because we were performing it for this event in Chicago. And I asked him the
Uh-huh.
other day, I was like, bro, we should really like cut this properly. And, because of course he's like, the mix is
Mm.
not right, Moo. Don't put it out. It's not ready. So I was like, we
Uh-huh.
need to do this the right way, where everybody is comfortable with how the production is and everything and really put it out. I love the version that we have right now, but it is like
Yeah,
a rough draft version.
I see.
But
I see.
yeah, I mean, it was definitely a moment. I was at home right before we went to Chicago, and I was like, I heard it. I was just sitting at my altar, and I heard Gaza on my mind. I said Gaza. Oh, sorry, I can't hear all these parts, but I'm hearing all the parts in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, and I just started crying, and I was like, bro, that's so real. Like
Mm-hmm.
even like if I'm not actively thinking about it, it's in my subconscious mind, like it's in my heart, it's right below the surface of my skin, what's happening. And
Right.
uh yeah, I was just like, I, want to, so that's what came to me. So I called Rami Nashashibi, he's the founder of Eman, Inner City Muslim Action Network. It's an organization that I've worked with for 15 years. And Rami is Palestinian. And
Mm-hmm.
he's done incredible work on the south side of Chicago, helping to mm, assist with food deserts. They've opened up a fresh farmers market
Mm.
in an all black neighborhood, right? And not because the neighborhood is
mm.
about to be gentrified, but actually for the Black people that live there.
Right,
They have
right.
a mental health clinic. They have a regular physical health clinic. They do anti-recidivism, skill trade building for brothers coming out of the pen. I mean, they do really, really incredible work. And his mother was a refugee born
Mm-hmm.
on in exile, like as the Nekba was happening. His
Wow.
grandmother was being forced out of her home and gave birth to his mother on the road trying to escape the
Wow.
Israeli army, you know. And so he
Right.
grew up a refugee all over the world, and he ended up in the south side of Chicago, you know,
Yeah.
with the brothers there. You know, he would tell me, you know,
Yeah.
he told me he learned Islam from the Muslim brothers in the gangs. And that
Wow.
got him involved in what the community needed and building all of these amazing resources. So
Wow.
he was putting on this function, you know, Reverend Moss and Mark Lamont Hill. And so I called
Mm-hmm.
him and I sang God's on My Mind. I said, this keeps coming to me in my meditative state. And he said, that's it. We naming the event God's on My Mind. Let's cut it. Da da da.
Wow.
So I was like, all right. So I flew out to Chicago and I wrote the lyrics out and we cut it and we performed it. I shared it, you know, on Instagram, but I definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to. I'm gonna call Ronnie again, and be like, when we gonna release this? What we
Yeah.
doing with this mix? Let's go. So yeah, but
Yeah.
it was powerful, man. And we honored that night. We honor, you know, because Eman works a lot with artists who do political work. So we honored all of the artists who have been, you know, martyred in
Mm.
Palestine that night. And some of the artists
Wow.
have come back and forth to America to work with Eman. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was personal and deep and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's heavy. I first met Ronnie through his work with Omar Afenda.
Mm,
That came and did a show here in Seattle.
mm.
And it was funny when you posted that video. I had actually just done a show in
Oh
Chicago
yeah.
for Gaza with Ronnie.
Oh wow, beautiful.
So it was like we did that on New Year's Day. So I don't remember what day you posted the video, but I know it was like it was
It
soon. It
was
was like
close.
right
Yeah,
around
yeah,
that
yeah.
time. Yeah. So I was like, small world. Um, this is one question that I ask everyone
Mhm.
in these interviews. But what is one thing that you hope people get from your music?
Man, inspiration. Inspiration.
Mm,
You know, I really feel like, especially with this album, because in a climate that we are in, part of me wanted to create a very political album. But from studying revolutionary groups like the Black Panther Party, like the Black Liberation Movement, like the Nation of Islam, like, you know, AIM, so many different organizations, what I realize is that, well, for one, it is very important to raise the vibration on the planet, right? Because on some level, I feel like because we're high vibrational beings, that you can't fight fire with fire. You got to fight it with water. You got to be who you are. Be an elevated being. Raise your vibration up and change the frequency on the planet. Get some help for the ancestors. You know, we need a lot of help. And then
mm-hmm.
also, I kind of felt like as I studied these movements, what I realized is that, man, we really, anything we want to do out there to help anyone out there, we got to do it in here first. The revolution has to
Mm,
start inside. We got to do the internal work, the internal digging to deal with our vices. You know what I mean? It's so many movements that were taken down by ego. They were taken down by
mm-hmm.
self-sabotage. They were taken down by drug addiction, by sex addiction, by, you know, all these different internal struggles. And granted, there was definitely COINTELPRO, and there was definitely these external organizations that were just intentionally destroying our movements, but they would not have been successful, not at the level that they were, if internally we had been as locked in and as tapped in, turned on as we needed to have been. And it wasn't our fault,
Mm-hmm.
right? Most of these movements were started by 21, 22-year-olds. They was babies. They were children. The Black Panther
Absolutely.
Party movement was started by kids, you know? Um,
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
but I started feeling like, man, the personal development, the healing work, the trauma, dealing with our trauma, we can't really move past and be more successful than our unhealed trauma. We can't. You can try all you
Oof.
want, but if we're not dealing with that part, all we can do is self-sabotage, you know.
Mm,
And if we're already dealing with the onslaught of sabotage from the outside, from the psychological warfare, what can we do to truly to strengthen ourselves, to fortify ourselves. I tell my son, right? So my son, I started having him fast during Ramadan at 10 years old. And, it was hard for him. He's complaining. And I told him, I said, the reason why I'm asking you to fast, right? Because some Muslims will say, you fast for Allah, on some level, okay. But I feel like Allah wants you to fast for you, to strengthen yourself, fortify yourself, to kill your vices, to kill your weaknesses of your flesh. I said, son, anything you want to do great in this world, if you think you're going to do something amazing, you better starve your vices first, because the enemy will use your vices against you. And fasting helps us to starve our vices. It helps you to know that you're greater than your flesh. You don't have to live in your flesh all the time. You're hungry, but you'll be okay. You want this, you want that, you'll be okay without it. You can go a month without it. You can go longer without it. Realize when you starve the flesh, you feed the spirit. And the spirit is what allows you to know that you're greater than this moment. And it lets you see your vision becomes further. You connect with a higher power, and your vision is expanded. But you don't have access to those higher realms when you stay in your flesh all the time. And so what fasting does is allows you to peer into your possibility. If you want to do anything great in this life, if you don't plan on starving your vices, they will destroy you. They're coming after you. Don't try to be great and not be disciplined. They have to go hand in hand, because otherwise, it's not going to work out for you. They're going to find what your weakness is, and they use it against you. They're very strategic. My God, it's diabolical, and it happens all the time. And so that's why I feel like the healing work is revolutionary work. And not just that, activists get burned out. That's a real 100%. Thing is the burnout. Yeah. You can't see that kind of horror and trauma. And on some level, not just tap out. So what are we doing? You restore, you practice self-care practices, right? That's what allows you to love on yourself enough to restore your well, to continue to have empathy, because that's what has to drive the revolution. It has to be empathy. It has to be love that's driving it. Nothing else is sustainable. And that love is restored and renewed by your self-care practice, by your digging into your internal mind, your subconscious mind, your restorative practices, your prayer, your meditation, your diet. Well, listen, we're not even looking at it. The diet allows you to tap in or not. These chemicals that we're calling food totally are shutting down our spiritual center, not allowing us to tap in. It's putting us in states of depression. So, any work that we want to do out there in the world, this is our world. It starts here, making this vessel capable of having capacity to do what you're going to do out there, and to withstand the pressure, the onslaught, the opposition. This has to be fortified first. So that's what the healing is about. It's like, I got to do this inner work. I got to do this inner work first.
Yeah. No, that's real. That's real. I appreciate how solid you are on your purpose, For real. Like it's
God's work.
Yeah, it hits different when you talk to an artist who's clear on their purpose, like even these kind of conversations, they go a lot deeper, So yeah, I appreciate it. What is coming up next for you? I know you got a bunch of tour dates.
Yeah. So we definitely have the tour coming up. We're hitting Atlanta on Father's Day. Then we hit LA. We have Virginia Beach, Winston-Salem, Philly. We're going to be at Monterey Jazz Festival this year. We'll be up in Nova Scotia. We'll be in London. We'll be in Geneva.
Wow.
But also, my next project I'm going to release in July is going to be this meditation album with my mom. And it's a part of a fundraiser for our healing retreat center I was telling you about, Mountain Eagle Place. And in September, we'll have our first retreat open to the public. Eman is going to bring all their artists, and they're going to have a first, 3-day outdoor retreat. We have our sweat lodge out there. So we'll be doing ceremony, cooking outside, living outside, and really just, teaching artists like what it feels like to tap in with the earth, to really, really no cell phones, no Wi-Fi, just really, really in nature, tapping in with God, tapping in with yourself, with nature. So, I'm excited about that. We got a lot of work to do, building on the land and getting it ready. We want to have farm to table service, the whole thing.
Ooh,
So I'm very excited about what that could mean, and the type of healing and restorative place that it can be for artists. And I mean,
I-
anyone really, but we focus on artists, because it's rare that artists have anyone to pour into them, right? We pour out
right.
all the time because, and it's hard to even know how do you pour into a person, right, who has a certain calling, who is always pouring out. Like, you can't just pour anything into them. You know what I mean? Like, it
Mm-hmm,
really got to
mm-hmm.
be specially brewed, to
Yeah,
actually work, to actually be restorative.
yeah.
So I'm excited about that. So September will be our first artist retreat, and then in October we're going to do a writing camp. So I
Nice.
do a class called Heart Song. It's therapeutic songwriting, and we do a lot of what I'm talking about: unpacking the subconscious mind,
Mm-hmm,
bringing the subconscious and conscious mind into alignment, and writing songs about it.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
yeah, so I'm that's also happening this year. So I'm super excited about that.
That's so major. When you talked about the space at first, I was thinking you meant metaphorical, but this is a real
Mm-hmm.
building, a real place.
Yeah, it's
Like,
land. Yep.
yeah, where in the world
It's
is
called.
it?
It's in
Like,
Freeman, Virginia.
in Virginia.
It's in
Okay,
Virginia. Yeah. So
nice.
it's beautiful. We invite you to come on down. All right.
Yo, don't play. I will
I'm
show
not
up.
playing. Come on. Yeah,
I,
it's really important. I can't wait until like we really have the place up and running, and you know,
yeah.
and it's not. I don't even want to say up and running because the whole point is for it to be rustic. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be any
Uh-huh.
luxury accommodations. Like, you sleeping
Got you.
out in the woods. You might have a wigwam. Okay, you might
Wow.
have a
Okay.
longhouse, but it's not. It's
Okay.
no Hilton hotel experience. Like, we have come so far just to realize, hey, it was a trap. Go back. Get the wigwam. It was
Yeah.
a trap. We don't want to live in that apartment in the projects. Get the wigwam back out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. Are there ways people can support the work that y'all are doing out
Yeah,
there?
so the website is mountaineagleplace.com, and there is a button to
Okay.
donate there. When this album comes
Dope.
out in July, we're going to use the platform Even. And Even is a
Mm,
platform where you can, so it won't be available on all streaming platforms. It'll just be through Even, so that you can support the project, and we can fundraise that way through the album.
dope.
Yeah,
That's
so
so
I'll send
dope.
you information when it's up.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
We're gonna share that. Well, yo, this has been a joy and a pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
joining us here. And if you're out there listening and haven't streamed that album, go listen to the healing. It
Yes,
is it
it is
is what it
healing.
says it is. It- It's musical healing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mumu Fresh once again for being so generous with her time and stories. If you haven't checked out that album, go listen to The Healing right now, wherever you listen to music. Easily on my top 10 of the year already. Just a phenomenal record from beginning to end. After you listen to Mumu Fresh's Healing LP, then go listen to my record. Both Ashes and Embers are out now. Embers is the remix album I just released. Ashes was the album I released last October, still relevant. And man, it's a really good time for music, yo. Shout out to Rhapsody for dropping a new album this month. Odyssey just dropped a new EP. Belly just released a new project. And I got a playlist that I put up a couple places online called Palestine on My Mind. That's got a lot of new music, new and old music, done by both Palestinian artists and artists who have used their platform in solidarity with Palestine. That's one of the playlists I've been listening to the most. And this is the Worldwide Underground. My name's Gabriel Teodros. Appreciate y'all for being here once again to support. GabrielTeodros.substack.com is where you go to subscribe to hear future episodes of the podcast and everything else I got going on. And before I'm out of here, I wanted to leave you with one more joint. This is maybe my favorite song from the Mumu Fresh LP. It's called State of Emergency. See you back here soon. Peace.
caption and no one bothers to read. Taking for granted what we really